my, do we have a lot to discuss coming off this afternoon's press conference that just wrapped up a short while ago at one winning drive. It was the final day of Ravens organized team activities because the 10th and originally scheduled final day tomorrow, Thursday the 12th, has been canceled. There'll be meetings, there'll be other workouts that are being scheduled and tended to inside the Ravens facilities. But in terms of media walkthroughs and an actual session itself, John Harbaugh is content with the third and final session of Ravens organized team activities, which means mandatory minicamp kicks off next on the 10th. Or it's not the 10th, the 17th, I want to say it was. Yeah, next Tuesday. So that'll be a 3-day minicamp, and we'll, of course, have coverage in the vault and right here on the Bobby Baltimore channel. I will tell you this. Before we kick things off, there was so much to get to in today's press conference, and I have a jam-packed afternoon coming up in about 40 minutes. So anything I don't get to today that's pressing will be included in tomorrow's Ravens Vault lunch hour live stream. So I look forward to that. Please like the video on your way in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell and enter yourself in for a chance to win $100 to Baltimore's team store, courtesy of this episode's sponsor, Primary Residential Mortgage and Fanatics. More on that in just a bit. You see the title, Ravens coach delivers impassioned rant, and my goodness, was it impassioned to say the very least. It's Chuck Smith, Ravens outside linebackers coach, pass rush specialist, somebody that has really revamped that room and that group since John Harbaugh brought him in a very non-traditional hire a couple years ago. He went on a friggin' 2+ minute rant in defense of Zach Orr, who just turned 33 and, of course, is coming off his first season as the defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens. We will get into that. We will get into John Harbaugh's comments on Bo Braid and Cheeto Awuzie, injury updates, if you will, for both players. Spoiler alert, nothing catastrophic for both. That's good news, obviously, for the Ravens secondary. Chuck also was not just here to talk about Zach Orr. He spoke glowingly of rookie Mike Green, had some really interesting things to say about their soon-to-be, perhaps, mainstay pass rusher. He talked about Tavius Robinson, who I think a lot of people feel like is on the precipice of having a breakout season. Travis Jones entering a contract year, and a number of other things, including John Harbaugh's comments on the way his secondary is currently constructed with a name like Jair Alexander floating out there on the open market after being released by the Green Bay Packers earlier this week. So without further ado, all that and more is what I have coming up in this episode. I appreciate you guys for being with me. And let's begin with Chuck Smith going on as really this was a rant of all rants. I think it's a good starting place. This was a rant of all rants. Clearly had some stuff to get off his chest from the end of last season, and he did exactly that in this clip right here, courtesy of Ravens Productions.
Is this the last question? I'm glad this is. I was hoping somebody asked me this, because I was all last year. I was watching everybody broadcast and talking. I lived it. I walked it. I seen it. I watched this coordinator stand on 10 toes. Zach Orr is the guy. Zach Orr, I'm telling you, is going to be an incredible coordinator. And let me tell you why. When we were struggling last year, I watched him stand in front of these mics every week and talk to y'all. He didn't flinch. But I also watched him stand in front of a room someday. I mean, we played after the Bengals. It wasn't like we were celebrating because they, from a defensive standpoint, they did a lot. They had great days on us. Zach Orr, man, looked those players in the eye. He never let the high get high, the low get too low. He stayed in the middle. And I'm telling you, he always would be positive, but he was tough. He's tough on the coaches and the players. And he would tell everybody, he would show everybody how close we were to actually having success. Like it might be an angle of a defensive back running the ball, or it might be a pass rusher that ran past the quarterback and the quarterback ran. Zach would stand and talk to everybody, and he led. He never flinched. And watching this cat do it, and I know last year a lot of people, they were in the media were saying, well, this guy came in and helped. No. Zach Orr did it. Zach Orr in those rooms with the coaches, he led, he made the changes in support with Coach Harbaugh and the guys on that staff. But Zach Orr truly led the charge. I'm a witness to it. And I've been wanting to say this because, dude, is the truth. Dude didn't flinch, and dude is going to be one of the best coordinators in the league. He is smart. He is a leader. And when you watch him work every day, this dude comes to work. I'm telling you, and I'm just glad that was my last question, because I wanted to set the record straight, because I'm a part of it. And I have no reason to come up here and BS y'all, because, you know, I roll. But Zach Orr was the one who changed what we did last year, and give John Harbaugh a lot of credit. You know, he was in there with us too, but I got to give Zach most of the credit for the adjustments that happened in that secondary, and also helping us coaches. He's like, the youngest in charge. That's what I call him. He's a special coach, and I'm really blessed to be around a guy like that.
Young indeed. Again, just celebrated his 33rd birthday. He is the youngest defensive coordinator across the league. At least he was a season ago during his first with the Ravens in terms of that specific position. Obviously, used to be an intern, used to be a player, a darn good one as an undrafted linebacker, used to be the inside linebackers coach. He did it all. But I'll tell you what, Chuck Smith just did it all for him. I want somebody like Chuck Smith in my corner, because we all know that last year, the first half of that season, it got awfully loud surrounding Zach Orr. Is he the right guy for the job? Is he biting off more than he can chew? Was this a premature hire? Life after Mike McDonald, right? There were questions. There was doubt, and some of which, right, a lot of which was warranted. The big question that remained, and really in a lot of ways no longer does, given the personnel changes that were made, and when you have folks that are in the inside type of view, the way that Chuck Smith has, sharing these types of insider little tidbits, it makes you believe it was a perfect storm. It wasn't Zach Orr's fault through the first 10 or 11 weeks with a 32nd ranked pass defense. They couldn't stop a cold. But man, if that's not going to bat for a teammate, if that's not going to bat for somebody that you respect, I don't know what is. It's 2+ minutes of what had clearly been on his mind since the end of last year. Chuck says Zach Orr is the guy. Dude is the truth. Dude didn't flinch. Dude is going to be one of the best coordinators in the league. I wanted to set the record straight. Zach Orr was the one that changed what we did last year. I got to give Zach most of the credit for the adjustments that happened in the secondary. He also made very clear, while he didn't name Dean Pease specifically, Dean was brought in at a pivotal point in season last year. Dean is a former NFL defensive coordinator, former assistant in Baltimore under John Harbaugh. And Dean was brought in really at a point of desperation. A pass defense that was going nowhere fast. Players that were on the outside looking in, former starters with lucrative contracts like Marcus Williams, benched. Eddie Jackson, cut. Ardarius Washington, thrust into starting position alongside Kyle Hamilton and did not look back. Zach Orr weathered the storm last year, and Chuck wanted to be abundantly clear that while Dean Pease as a consultant and as an experienced professional was absolutely helpful and probably necessary, Chuck made it clear that it was Zach who turned the ship around. That is as glowing of an endorsement as you will hear for a young defensive coordinator who had a lot thrown at him in his first year on the job and had a lot more noise than most do when it comes to their first year of employment. And there's something about Chuck, man, that has this OG level of wisdom. When he talks, you listen. And I think his players feel the same way, because as soon as he showed up here a couple of years ago, this will be year 3 for him, if I'm not mistaken, as the outside linebackers coach and a pass rush specialist. Oh, you know, his pass rushers have just led the league and then top 2 in the league his first 2 seasons on the job. I don't think it's a coincidence. Chuck has brought a level of technique, a fundamentally sound cohesion to this group, and gotten the most out of his players. Breakout seasons for Odafe Owe. Resurgent seasons for Kyle Van Noy on the other side of 30. And perhaps now in Mike Green, somebody that can be an integral piece as a rookie. And maybe, just maybe, a breakout season on deck for Tavius Robinson. All those players that I just mentioned are who Chuck was asked specifically about in his press conference. And I have a couple of those clips that I wanted to share with you, beginning with the rookie, Mike Green, who's garnering a lot of attention for obvious reasons. The Ravens are in need of another dominant pass rusher. And my, oh my, if he's going to show up like his 2024 self in his final collegiate season at Marshall, Ravens are going to be in pretty darn good shape. Listen to this.
Mike Green was effort. Guy who runs to the ball. And if you've watched him out here, Mike Green runs to the ball every play. And that you don't have to coach him on. That's one of the best things. When you get to be a pro, you shouldn't have to coach effort. And a lot of guys that come out of college, you say, let's go, got to push them. That's one of the first things I saw in Mike Green. And then he's coachable. He wants to learn. He's in there asking questions with Matt and Dennis when we're all combined as far as a defensive front, when we're all together in the room. And that's another thing that stands out in him. He's super smart, and picking up the defense. And, I give Mike a lot of credit. He comes out here. Mike has heavy hands. He doesn't turn down reps and heavy hands. He puts hands on guys. He's shown that he has the ability to, strike blocks. And, in this, again, we're not, all out, and all that will be seen, again, when we get into camp. But as far as Mike doing everything we ask, he's doing it. And from a pass rush standpoint, Mike is very, he's skilled up. Give him credit, give his school a lot of credit, and his coach in college at Marshall and probably Virginia. Mike, he can cross chop. Mike can spin. Mike can ghost. But, from that standpoint, Mike is the best example of this new generation that have learned, like, from the pros, and he comes in already really highly skilled up. So, give him a lot of credit. I mean, Mike is his get off. Just amazed that, he's in his base 2-point stance. He has no false steps. He gets off on the ball fast. So I can't say enough about Mike so far. Now we put the pads on. So the Mike Green that we've seen so far is everything that we thought he would be, when we decided to draft him.
Another glowing endorsement, which is sort of a theme coming off the press conference from today. Chuck Smith speaking glowingly of several members of the organization, both staff and player personnel. Of course, you just heard him rev up Zach Orr, and you just heard him speak very, very highly of his rookie edge rusher, Mike Green, who was selected in the second round of April's NFL draft out of Marshall, led the FBS with 17 total sacks a year ago, a bunch of tackles for loss, a few forced fumbles, and all the accolades you could possibly want from the Sun Belt. You heard Chuck. He's skilled up is 45. That's Mike Green's new number. He can cross chop. Mike can spin. Mike can ghost. All techniques within the realm and world of pass rush that Chuck has made a career off of. Mike is the best example of this new generation that have learned from the pros, and he comes in already highly skilled up. His get off, just amazed that when he's in his base 2-point stance and he has no false steps. He gets off on the ball fast. The Mike Green we've seen so far is everything we thought he would be when we decided to draft him. Big time chatter, big time talk about the rookie edge rusher, Mike Green, who just intercepted Cooper Rush, by the way, in yesterday's organized team activity. I just saw a note on his Instagram that he's attending a funeral today, which is why he was one of those players that was not available in terms of today's attendance at OTAs. And while the pads, I will continue to stress this, that while the pads have yet to come out, this is a player that appears to be doing exactly what you hope a big-time prospect would be doing this time of year. And I don't think his coaches, whether it's Zach Orr, who spoke last week about him, or Chuck Smith, or even John Harbaugh, I don't think that there's a hyperbolic tone being used with some of their comments on their rookie and what he's bringing to the table so far here in the early going. As we continue with these standout players and defensive standouts, now we on to Tavius Robinson. Tavius is a player that was once drafted by the Canadian Football League. You got to go back to 2023 for that. He had options. He's a Canadian-born player, 6'6", 262. Played his college football at Ole Miss, and he was a fourth-round pick by the Ravens back in 2023. Tavius, in terms of the numbers, I have it right here for you. 3.5 sacks last year, just won his rookie season, but he's been healthy, durable. He's withstood the war of attrition, and everybody continues to speak so glowingly of Tavius. So much so, I guess Steve Bisciotti was in attendance during today's OTA, and John Harbaugh during his press conference shared that Steve went up to him and was like, does this guy ever miss a rep? Does this guy ever miss a practice? And that's certainly something that Chuck Smith, from his vantage point, echoed.
Tavius Robinson doesn't get enough credit because Tavius Robinson is one of our centerpieces. He's not just a guy who, he came up, he's an overachiever. No. Tavius Robinson, when you look at from an organization standpoint, I believe in speaking for our organization. I shouldn't be, but I think they'll always agree. Tavius Robinson is everything you look for in a Baltimore Raven. Every day Tavius Robinson showed up, and this is not me exaggerating, he sits in the front, he takes notes, he plays hard. He's taken more snaps than anybody here since I've been here in practice. He works after practice. He's a good person. He got that dog in him. And what he's really worked on really hard, we've worked on, is Tavius Robinson now is going to be, I believe, a bona fide pass rusher, and he has an opportunity to have a breakout season. I mean, Tavius Robinson came out of college, he ran a 4.6. But then also being in fairness to how it works, Tavius isn't a part of the rush group. Doff, and he had Jadavion, you had Kyle, you had those guys, and those are double-digit sackers, guys who've had careers. So he's not getting those reps. So if Tavius Robinson had 250 pass reps a year, he gets 7, 8, 9 sacks. It's just about the numbers. But Tavius Robinson is everything you look for. He's going to be a good rusher. He's adding rush moves in his repertoire. He's got power. But make no bones about it, Tavius Robinson is a centerpiece in our defensive front for what he does and moving forward.
Can you tell Chuck's got his guys? Tavius Robinson coming up on his third NFL season. Again, a former fourth rounder out of Ole Miss. You heard the man, Chuck Smith. Tavius Robinson doesn't get enough credit because Tavius Robinson is one of our centerpieces. Tavius Robinson's everything you look for in a Baltimore Raven. Tavius now is going to be, I believe, a bona fide pass rusher, and he has an opportunity to have a breakout season. Make no bones about it. Tavius Robinson is a centerpiece in our defensive front. A lot of folks think that he is certainly capable of a double-digit sack campaign. It's just a matter of how many reps, how many opportunities will he get to do so, given that Adafe, obviously the rookie, and Mike Green, Kyle Van Noy, they will occupy reps, certainly. But number 95, they don't call him a glass eater for no reason. It just seems like this dude was built to be a Raven, wears his heart on his sleeve, is well-studied, efforts through the roof. And, yeah, you get the sense that the way that they're speaking about him, he could be an integral piece this upcoming season, which is probably under the radar in terms of what we've spent a lot of our time talking about. Because, again, the rest of that room, when you got two players that are coming off double-digit sack campaigns and a rookie that slipped to you in the second round who was viewed as a top 15, top 10 pick, that tends to happen, right? 95 kind of is sort of behind the scenes a little bit, under the radar, and maybe that's exactly where he wants to be, an underdog, and come out and surprise folks. Travis Jones, nose tackle. Travis, of course, out of UConn, was drafted in the third round back in 2022, and he's been a force. Now he's going to get his opportunity, big number 98, with Michael Pierce having retired. And I'm not saying the opportunities haven't come already. He's been highly impactful, and he was banged up with an ankle injury last year and still just busted his way through and somehow remained available, remained reliable. And that's something that Chuck Smith certainly acknowledged during his press conference earlier.
So let me answer something to make something clear. I'm the pass rush coach. I'm not the outside linebacker coach. I'm not the defensive line coach. What I am is I oversee the pass rush from the defensive line, the outside linebackers, the linebackers, as well as the development of the secondary. So that's how it works now. So Matt Robinson's outside linebackers, Dennis Johnson is linebackers. We all work together called a defensive front. There's 3 of us, along with Megan Rosberg and Andrew Rogan. It's really 4 of us who really put it together. So, you kind of understand the context of what I'm saying. So I do get a chance to work with everybody. Now, Travis Jones, so I can answer your question. Travis Jones is fantastic. Travis Jones is a pass rusher that I'll put him out there one-on-one with 95% of the offensive guards in the league, and they can't block him. Travis Jones is getting ready to be one of the best interior rushers in the game. Last year when he was healthy, he was one of the best interior rushers in the game. The film doesn't lie, nor do the respect he has from the other teams. Travis Jones he's skilled up. And one of the things when I first got here, we talked about, and some of the people that were here, we talked about we want everybody to have a skill. Whether you're big, you're small, you're a cornerback, a linebacker, we want everybody to have skill. Travis Jones has multiple moves, and he does a chop drive. He can do a hump. He can do long arms. He can do everything. Travis Jones, if things go the way I see it for Travis Jones and the way I think the overview of our team goes, Travis Jones has a chance to be a Pro Bowler. He's as good as any defensive lineman nose guard in the National Football League. And I think this year, when he stays healthy the entire season, I think he'll prove it and put it on tape.
Again, a guy like Tavius Robinson, right? Much like Tavius, sort of flying under the radar just in terms of their positions or what's been there over the last couple of years, the guys that have occupied those positions over the last couple of years. But I don't think Chuck's a guy that gets up there and blows smoke up everyone's ass. I mean, this is a guy that gets up there and truly believes, that's what I feel, in what he's not only preaching, teaching, but also pontificating on in these press conferences. And there were players that got specific endorsements in a glowing manner, the way that you just heard there. Mike Green is one of those players. Adafe Owe is one of those players. Travis Jones and Tavius Robinson. Those 4 you got to expect from an interior rush standpoint, from an edge rush standpoint. Ultimately, that they're going to go. The defense is going to go how they go and how disruptive they're ultimately able to go from the jump up front. And so how can you not be fired up after listening to Chuck Smith? Yeah, in a way, these are his guys, right? And part of his job is to build them up. But I think his words hold merit, and it'll just be very curious to see how a lot of these guys translate and a lot of these big, lofty types of expectations sit with them coming into the 2025 season. Appreciate you guys for being with me here on this Wednesday. Please like the video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. This episode is brought to you by my friends at Primary Residential Mortgage. And right now, if you haven't already entered into the $100 gift certificate giveaway that goes directly towards Fanatics and a gift card that can be used at Baltimore's team store, please do so by clicking on the link that's in the show notes. There's also one in the pinned comment as well, as always, in the live chat. And basically what's going on here is all you got to do, click that link. It'll take you to the Primary Residential Mortgage Instagram page. It's at PRMI Mid-Atlantic on IG. And if you want to enter yourself in, comment on the post with the hashtag BobbyB and let them know what your dream home looks like. You can follow them at PRMI Mid-Atlantic. Subscribe to this channel, the Bobby Baltimore channel, if you don't already, and scan the QR code on the left-hand side of the screen that you see right there, or just copy and paste this into a browser right here, this little Google Forms link. The winner is going to be announced later on this month, and I would love for you to consider supporting my brand sponsor, because when you support them, you're supporting us and this show. And on top of that, they do have a message for you as well. Are you drowning in credit card debt? If you are, your home could be the solution. Primary Residential Mortgage's home equity loan may help you. It's going to lower your interest rate. It's going to consolidate into one easy payment, and it's going to free up your monthly cash flow. If you want to talk options, you can go to the show notes or Primary Residential Mortgage. Find them on Instagram. Find them across the web. They got you covered. My guy, Zach Evans, does great work, and as does Michael Clark and my girl, Naz, and everybody over there, Devin, Jimmy, you name it. Great people. George over at the Towson location. Primary Residential Mortgage, powering this channel and perhaps powering you to a $100 Fanatics gift card that can be used coming up later. A lot of great new merch that just dropped on the site, like that friggin' snapback hat that John Gruden was wearing the other day. Go check it out. Click on the link that's in the show notes as a pinned comment as well. Okay, good news here along the injury front. Bo Braid and Cheeto Awuzie. Bo, of course, is the news first, before I remind you, if you need a reminder, who these players are. They're dealing with minor ankle injuries. That's what John Harbaugh said a short while ago during his press conference. So it doesn't appear to be anything that's over the top negative or catastrophic. So good news there for the Ravens secondary. Bo, of course, is the former undrafted rookie from a year ago out of Maryland, played primarily special teams for him. And then Cheeto is, on paper, your Brandon Stevens replacement. He's the corner. He's the veteran corner. Used to be a Bengal. Used to be a Tennessee Titan. And Tennessee decided to pay 7.5 M's for him to suit up elsewhere this upcoming season. So that's the reality there. Cheeto has dealt with his fair share of injury history. Probably part of the reason why the Titans were willing to part ways with him and release him and then eat that salary for the 2025 season. But as far as we know right now, according to John Harbaugh, while he didn't seem like he was all that upbeat, I'm sure it's hot out there in that Baltimore sun, it looks like both of these guys avoided catastrophic, significant injuries. So from a secondary standpoint, even though we don't know what both of their respective roles will be at this point, we don't even know if Bo's going to make the 53, being that he was down to the wire last year. It's a good thing, but at the same time, there's still a lot to be figured out in terms of what their respective roles will consist of throughout the course of the summer as they get a chance to show what they're all about. And while we're on this topic of the secondary, where they sit right now, what just became available a couple days ago in Pro Bowl corner Jair Alexander, John Harbaugh was asked about a couple things. One, second-year corner out of Iowa State, TJ Tampa, where he's at with him in the process at this point in the offseason program. And then from there, just how content is he right now with the way the secondary is looking and what they might do acquisition-wise?
You know, that wasn't the case last year. He came in with the groin type situation that you get surgery on. So that's been a big plus. So the reps are really good for him. I've seen a lot of flashes. I mean, flashing some real good plays. Keep chasing the consistency with the technique. I think TJ's a young player in the sense that I don't even think sometimes he understands how good he is, how talented, how big he is. You know, so I want him to play big, you know, play like a big corner and embrace that as far as his technique. And he's been working on doing that, and you see it really coming around.
He's one of the guys who went to Chuck Pagano when he first got here, just seeking advice. How valuable is it? Simple question, but how valuable is it to have a guy like Chuck for a guy in his position?
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I mean, you know, Chuck's a great coach and does a great job with these guys. Experience, but Chuck, even when he was a young coach, he was a great coach. I know, because I was young then too, you know, and he's always been a talented superstar secondary coach, defensive back coach, defensive coach. He was a great head coach. So, yeah, it's very valuable.
John, kind of piggybacking off the Tampa question, you've got a lot of young corners in that room. There's two high-profile guys available. Do you like where you're at as far as your cornerback depth that's in the building, or is that something you guys are kind of looking outside the building for?
Well, I mean, I really look at it as an or. I look at it as an and. You know, yes, we're happy with the guys we have, and I'm very confident those guys are all going to do well, and we turn over every stone, you know, so you're always interested in anything you see on the waiver wire or anything else.
That last part right there, right? I was going to say lip service up until that last part where, look, it was around this time last year that they brought in a veteran in Eddie Jackson at the safety position. And while that did not work out well whatsoever, it just goes to show you there are always roster tweaks that need to be made and can be made right up until training camp and even after training camp too. Look at Kyle Van Noy a few years ago. Look at Jadeveon Clowney. Every single year he typically signs either in the middle of training camp or perhaps after training camp, because both he and KVN have proven that they are guys, they are dudes, and they don't necessarily need training camp because you can trust them outside of your walls. Look, obviously, Jeff was referring to Jair Alexander with that last question, and I think until further notice, the Ravens are probably just doing due diligence at this point. I would think they were one of the 6 teams that Josina was referring to, just in terms of, as she refers to as immediate inquiries. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens were one of those 6. And it's funny, a bunch of people were tweeting at Josina like, yo, is it my team? Is it my team? Was it the Ravens? Da-da-da-da. And Gucci here was like, yo, it's me again. Was Baltimore one of them? And she's like, hey, dear Ravens fans, I've always been there for you guys. That said, it's after midnight. XOXO. I don't know if that's like confirming it. No, it's definitely not confirming it. But again, it would not surprise me if the Ravens, at the very least, made a call to his representation, maybe even to Green Bay before things went final at 4 p.m. Eastern on Monday, meaning his release. This is a player that has been highly unavailable in recent years. He has had his fair share of banged up setbacks, but when healthy, we're talking about one of the top cover corners in the entire league. And the Ravens, as we've seen year after year after year, you can never have enough corners. What did Ozzie Newsome used to say? If you feel like you have enough, go add one more. Perhaps the Ravens do it if it's the right player at the right price. The good news is, though, from a secondary perspective, looks like Cheeto and Bo avoided significant injury earlier this week during organized team activities. So that's good news, obviously. Speaking of the secondary, Malachi Starks continues to impress, continues to wow. John Harbaugh said that he was organizing walkthroughs at the team hotel during rookie minicamp. And so while he maybe hasn't flashed like some of you would have hoped as a first rounder, I mean, he did have an interception the other day. John continues to say that he is playing mistake-free football and continues to showcase his leadership qualities, which obviously they love and they saw well early on in the process, I'm sure, which is why they were willing to spend the 27th overall selection on him back in April in the first round. Well, can't find a positive spin on this one other than the fact that I guess training camp is a time for, or OTAs are a time for tinkering, experiment, honing in on your craft. I don't know how to spin this positively. Beat reporters like Gianna Hahn, who were on the scene today, noted that Tyler Loop, rookie kicker, set to potentially replace Justin Tucker, spent a day 3 pick on him out of Arizona, was 4 for 8. I've also seen some that said 5 for 9, so it's clearly an unofficial number. But Gianna's got it at 4 for 8. And she's got him missing all 4 kicks 50+. He was 4 for 8. He converted from 33, 37, 42, and 56. And it looked like all 4 of his misses came from 50+. 50, 55, 56, and 60. This comes a day after the undrafted kicker in John Hoyland out of Wyoming went a perfect 6 for 6. So, while you hate to sit here and kind of sound the alarm bells early on in June, Tyler did have some issues in his final year at Arizona. He was touted throughout the pre-draft process for having a huge leg. And he did make from 60+ that could have been 70+, as his assistant told us during one of our recent interviews earlier this offseason, could have made from 60+. Or I should say would have been good from well over 60+, maybe even 70+. But this will just be something to watch in the middle of a Super Bowl or bust era. Really do or die at this point in the Lamar Jackson process. If AFC North football comes down to a field goal, if postseason football comes down to a kick, it's not going, the days of getting up and going to the bathroom at the commercial break or treating it as a commercial break, the days of going to make another drink, the days of going to take a breather are over. It's a new era of Ravens football when it comes to its special teams. And they can feel like the number 33 has everything in terms of the mental makeup, the ability, right, the physical gifts, so on and so forth, that they wanted. But until those bullets are flying and the lights are on, you may not know what you truly have in your rookie kicker. So it'll be something to watch. There is a competition, even though I can't imagine, barring something unforeseen. If Tyler Loop starts to struggle, you obviously brought in an undrafted guy for a reason. But it's obviously the draft pick's job to lose. And in AFC North football, in cold weather games, in postseason games, you already know special teams oftentimes is a difference maker. We'll have to keep watching it. Told you about Jair Alexander, and that brings us to the end of a quick sub 40-minute show because we are getting an estimate as I continue to work on my mother's house for driveway paving. We're getting trees removed in the coming weeks. I hate to get rid of trees, a nature guy, but they got to go. They're becoming safety hazards. We're getting the driveway sealed and really paved and redone completely. We will then regrow grass. Actually, it's going to go trees, grass, driveway. That's the order of events. So a lot going on here, and we have a meeting coming up in just a short while. So if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell on your way out so you'll be notified the next time that I drop a piece of content. You can connect with me in a number of different areas. Twitter, at Bobby Baltimore. Instagram for my lifestyle influencing these days. I don't know if you've been paying attention. At Bobby Baltimore. You can, what else can you do? If you want to donate to the channel, you can do so through the Super Chat feature or Venmo or Cash App. And like I said, anything that I missed today will be incorporated and discussed accordingly in tomorrow's Ravens Lunch Hour live stream on Thursday. Tomorrow's Thursday, correct? Yes, it is. So I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing you guys then. Appreciate the love as always. Thanks for an awesome and highly generous show earlier today inside the vault. That was awesome. 97 different channel members were gifted out today. So that was super cool. And what was our number that we finished off at? 716. So perhaps 750 is in the cards for tomorrow's show. Look forward to it. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. And thanks for spending some time with me. And thanks to Primary Residential Mortgage for the support. Go enter yourself into that $100 Fanatics gift card giveaway that we're doing up later this month. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.